Are you an enterprise dissatisfied with overpriced analytics software that can't keep up with modern data? If so, then GravWell is the solution for you. GravWell is an unstructured data analytics platform for enterprises who demand total data visibility across their network. GravWell lets your security team go beyond the SIM and fuse data sources to correlate and answer questions you didn't know needed to be asked. Go to gravwell.io/securityweekly for an unlimited data trial and gain uncompromising visibility today. In 2017, an increasing number of companies reported they did not have effective insider threat detection methods. LogRhythm's UEBA solutions enable you to detect and neutralize user-based threats in real time, while built-in scenario and behavior-based analytics empower you to expose insider threats, compromised accounts, and privilege misuse. Visit logrhythm.com to learn how their UEBA solutions can help you expand visibility and enhance detection capabilities. Today's determined attackers easily bypass even the most advanced network defenses. Trying to ramp up staff to detect their backdoors can cost thousands of dollars and take months, even years. With Active Countermeasures AI Hunter, we enable junior analysts to detect even the most advanced backdoors in a matter of hours. Sign up for a demo and purchase our product today by visiting activecountermeasures.com/ESW. Active Countermeasures. Make every analyst a hunter. Welcome, everyone. This is Paul Asadoorian and Matt Alderman. I forgot to introduce us in the previous segment. We're just getting rolling today. It's okay. We're here at DEF CON. We're in the upgraded pool cabana, and this is the big one. This is the big segment. This is everything else that Matt and I haven't talked about. We have notes on probably a dozen or so companies in probably 4 or 5 different categories that we want to share everything that we learned. And so I'm excited, dude. I'm excited. I wish I had gotten a chance to meet with some more of these customers. I didn't get a chance to catch up with Anomaly. Really many of the threat intelligence vendors.
Yep.
Recorded Future, I think, is in that mix as well,
Yep.
Right? There's another one in that.
Threat Connect.
Threat Connect is making a pivot into SOAR. I didn't get a chance to catch up with them, which was too bad. I want to, let's start off with a really cool vendor to warm us up, because this is just cool, right? PFP Cybersecurity. Basically, they make hardware that runs a custom Linux kernel and some custom hardware that looks for RF and what is it? EMI, electromagnetic emissions, something like that, right? Like basically the energy, the signature that's being produced from any particular piece of equipment. Now, their products can do this via RF, so wirelessly, or they can stay in line in the power that's being fed to the device.
Oh.
What they're looking for, I don't know if I told you this yet, Matt. So what they're looking for is to get a baseline of that RF or electro, whatever, the electrical signature of the device. I probably should have done a little more research into what that was. Basically, there's an energy pattern, right, that you can pick up wirelessly, the emissions from that device. Every CPU has emissions that comes off of it that you can measure, right, in the air or through the power cord. So they do a baseline. Now let's say they're baselining a Cisco router. Now let's say I gain access to that Cisco router, I upload my custom firmware, I put a backdoor in it, my signature changes. And they're monitoring for those changes.
The changes.
And I said, well, that's really interesting. I'm kind of questioning the false positive rate, because I think there's a lot of things that could change the RF signature of a
that
particular device, or the power signature, power consumption of those devices that, like you said, I mean, it could indicate a change, not necessarily a security change. Now, what I thought was interesting and what I described to them, I said, look, and this is actually validated from another interview that we did. I said, there are attackers that are dropping very advanced RF-capable devices into the data centers and networks of large enterprises. These are nation-state attacks. These are advanced penetration testers. These are advanced attacks. I'm like, why can't your gear pick up on some of those attacks? Like, that would be a play for me. I'm like, I suggested to them, and I'm like, I'm not overstepping my bounds. I'm just going to give you some free advice. Like, you can take it or leave it. I said, but I can see a future where
People are dropping your devices inside all of their data centers, and it's looking for any leakage in any kind of RF communications.
Interesting.
I mean, pen testers and nation-state attackers alike are doing these really advanced things with FM radio and changing the speed variance on a fan to exfiltrate data.
Wow.
Like, you guys can pick up on all of that.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, that's something that we're working on, we're considering it. I'm like, let's keep in touch. I want to, get back with them, understand a little more about what they're doing today. I'm almost more interested in what they're doing in the future because I think there's a really interesting problem they can solve. Now, Julian from Raytheon does advanced incident response for a lot of customers. Julian told me after his interview, and we're going to bring him back on the show to talk about this, he said that he's witnessed in the wild these attacks being used. We cover them on the show, Matt, and we're like, who's gonna
do that?
Blink the lights on the front of the system and then hack into a camera to pick up on the lights to exfiltrate? I mean, Matt, we've covered it all over the last 14 years on the show. Julian's like, no, there's actually people using these attacks. Then I meet with this vendor, and I'm like, you have the ability to help us with this problem,
right?
And now we're hearing it is becoming more and more of a problem. So that was one of the more interesting observations. And I mean, their technology was just wicked cool. So
it was hardcore guys that are doing
it was my A for the day in that it was the most cool technology I saw since I've been out here.
Wow.
For sure.
Interesting.
All right. Where do you want to go next?
There's a couple I did that kind of fit in, as I said the other day, application, user and identity, data security, right? Mm-hmm. Didn't spend much time with data security folks on this trip. Spent a little bit of time with the identity. Starting to see some interesting movement in the space on identity.
Sure.
So I wanted to I sat down with Centrify. Centrify was a very interesting one for me. I've done a lot of identity access management, privilege access management, kind of advisory calls.
Now, this is a huge category.
Yeah,
like we talked about it, like that tight attack simulation category.
Yeah,
you've got identity and access,
privilege, multi-factor authentication, ID as a service, single sign-on plays. Right?
God,
there's like There's probably 4-ish, maybe a little more
with
markets.
With all dotted lines to each other,
right? And the thing I could not ever understand is why are there 4 different markets? Why isn't this one, right?
You said that before about the SIM market too. Oh, actually the opposite. You said the SIM market was too broad of a category. We needed to break it down into multiple pieces.
Sometimes, yeah.
Now, you're saying this is the opposite.
This is the opposite, right?
So, and just so our audience knows, Matt's usually right about these things. I'm just saying, when Matt says that stuff to me and then I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, Matt was right again.
But I mean, if you look at the market, why do I need a separate privilege access management solution when I already have an identity and access management solution in place?
I need like a CyberArk or something like that, and then I need an Okta for the signal.
And an Okta
do you need Duo and Okta?
Well, yeah, you can, yeah.
Because Duo is about the authentication.
They're an MFA. They're a multi-factor authentication vendor.
But then I still got to...
really an ID as a service kind of single sign-on.
But then I still got to go to like YubiKey or someone to get if I want a physical token.
Right.
And then if I want it all to be single sign-on through my multi-factor authentication, I got to get Okta. And if I want to tie that into
all my corporate identities, I need a ping or a SailPoint or whatever,
CyberArk or whatever.
Right, and then if I'm doing privilege, now I need a CyberArk, a Thycotic, or a whoever, right?
Or now it's BombGuard because they bought Lieberman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, because it does that machine to machine. That's the big differentiator.
Yeah, exactly.
And privilege is managing machines.
So I'm like, come on, somebody's got to be starting to think about this more holistically. So I wanted to.
You're right. It's a hot mess.
So I've talked about this before. We talked about Centrify on the show a few months back, and the Centrify guys came up to me at a conference and go, dude, by the way, we do all those things. I'm like, oh, really? Right? Because
I did an informal briefing with Centrify, and I was like, yeah, like I'm pretty impressed. I'm like, you guys are taking on more of that category, larger category.
Broadly, yes.
Now, when I spoke with them a couple of years ago, it sounded like something that was more for like a mid-market small enterprise.
So one of the things that, if you went out to their old website, I don't know if they've updated it yet, but they really focused around the identity and access management components, not the multi-factor authentication, not the privileged access. And so by sitting down with them, they are playing a much broader component. We've also talked about Computer Associates and some of the moves that Computer Associates has made on the identity side, where their identity access management and their privileged access management are all part, and they have a password vault, right? I think those types of vendors are the ones that
because do you need a LastPass too, or no? Centrify has a vault. Do they have a password vault?
Yeah, they have a privileged access component.
I'm sorry, how long is this segment gone? I may break this up into multiple segments, that's why, for our audience, so we can go through a few and then, 12 minutes? Okay. Sorry, keep going.
So the ability to do more of that in one solution instead of buying 3 or 4. So Centrify is definitely in that space. We're starting to see some moves in some other vendors. Like I said, CA has done aspects of this. And I think at some point you'll start to see some consolidation. I mean,
CA does have a much more comprehensive solution for this, right?
Yes,
where it's more one-stop shopping.
Yes. And Centrify is kind of another variation of that. But then we had some interesting moves, right? Lieberman gets bought by Baumgar. Duo gets picked up by Cisco before this event.
I did a briefing, now that you say this now, I did do a briefing in the identity space. It was the SecureAuth and Core Security, the acquisition there. So SecureAuth is basically, I didn't know they had this, but they're the new way to authenticate, a next generation authentication, I guess you could call it, is kind of how
There's a number of those out there too.
But basically, and we've interviewed a couple of startups in this vein, but SecureAuth is doing this at a pretty good clip. Basically, what they're saying is, Matt, you take your laptop, right? You go into your office in the morning at your house, and because you're associated with the access point you're normally associated with, because your Bluetooth headset is paired, and that's always the headset that's paired with it, because your geolocation checks out, and because of where your laptop is or how you hold it or how you type, you say, I'm Matt Alderman. It goes, I don't need any passwords or any other identifier. I've already been able to collect enough identifiers about you to validate that you're Matt Alderman. I don't need to ask for your password. If one of those doesn't pass the sniff test,
then I say,
Matt, I need your password and I need your two-factor authentication.
Yeah, and there's others in the space, like CallSign and some others that are doing this based on a bunch of metadata about you, kind of what level of
if I could
access
find
do you need.
My notes.
Your notes, on your fancy little.
On my fancy, it is fancy
little thing.
It is fancy.
But anyways, I like tracking this space because it's an important part of the security triad that exists after we, fully move everything into the cloud and we're done with digital transformation, whenever that is. Application, user, and data, because we're giving users access to our apps, which have access to our data. It's just a very interesting space I like to watch, and I think we'll continue to see some interesting consolidations in that space. We've already seen a few leading up to this event. I think those vendors that have a strategy of doing more across the identity spectrum, I think have some longevity, because I think there will be some interesting consolidation here.
Yes, absolutely. Do we want to talk about a couple more maybe before we take a break?
Yeah, I didn't get it.
I got here it is. Identity security automation is what they called it. Okay. Right? Biometric, they're tracking 26 factors. They say it also works with machine-to-machine communications as well. So they have a solution for that, which is very interesting. And basically, we're going to do a demo to learn more. I think that they've got a great play in the market for SecureAuth. However, it remains to be seen how they're going to integrate the Core Impact acquisition.
Exactly.
And
so that's
I don't have an answer.
Part, right?
I don't have an answer on that yet for them. I've got some suggestions for them. They've had a lot of suggestions internally. And basically, I was like, I'll talk about your SecureAuth. I'm like, it's a solid business. I think it's a solid solution. I love that it works with the machine-to-machine communications, but they haven't, for those listeners that have been listening for a long time, we have a long history with Core Security.
Right.
I mean, we owe a lot to them. They helped us get a start. They were responsible for a really long time.
Yeah, and they've gone through some transitions over the years, too. They've kind of pivoted in a couple places.
And they've got great agent technology there. Their agent that they could deploy, so let's say I exploit a system, my payload that I'm dropping in, they had one of the most advanced payloads that I had ever seen on the market. How they capitalize that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
I wanted to see them get into the attack simulation space.
Well, they kind
that remains
isn't
to be
that what
seen.
they did with
they tried
Impact,
to do
with
the Insight.
Insight? Insight, yeah.
Was it Insight?
Core Insider, I think
Something
it was.
like
yeah,
that.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. They tried.
And they were trying to compete with Red Seal and Skybox on some
Yes,
of that attack
yes, they
path
were.
simulation stuff back in the day. But, when they kind of got rebranded, respun,
Mm-hmm.
it looks like they pivoted a little bit. I haven't tracked them as closely
and then
lately.
they got bought by Securoth, and
Yeah.
we'll see
So
what
now
happens. I mean,
what?
hopefully some great things come out of it. I'm hopeful that
Love to
they
see.
will. So, all right, where else do we want to go?
So I tried to get a briefing with Ativo Networks on the deception side. There's a couple others in the deception space.
Yep.
Calvio, I think, is in the deception space.
I think so.
Yeah, and then there's a couple others. I did get a chance to spend some time with a couple of them, but I was hoping to get a deeper dive on Ativo. It's a ForgePoint invested company with Will Lin, and wanted to dig in a little deeper on kind of where they were. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do that briefing. We didn't get it. Somehow we crossed wires there or something. But the deception space is an interesting one to see where that one's going to go.
Ativo has a strong play in the market, and I can't for the life of me remember what their differentiator is, but we did ask them about their customers and what they reported, and their customers are reporting a lot of success with their platform. And I think that the perception they have to overcome is the perception of deception. Look at that, I'm rhyming. Right? The perception of deception is terrible.
Right.
It's terrible. People are like, why do I need that?
They just think it's the next generation honeypot.
Once Ativo gets it deployed in the network, the customer starts to understand the value. Understanding your gaps, being able to attract attackers to target, to identify that there's an attack going on, early indicators, things like that. And so they've just got, everyone in deception has a really serious marketing and positioning, messaging and positioning problem, right? Because of the perception of deception.
Yeah, exactly right.
Look, I'm a poet and I didn't know it. So let's see. I did talk with Bitdefender. I met with their global channels and distributions person. They've got a really interesting plan, data center security, hypervisors, and it's a secure platform for the cloud. They also make a play in the endpoint, which I always thought of them an endpoint play. To me, they sounded stronger on their data center security. Like basically, they're able to help you secure the hypervisor. And so I think that's important for large cloud companies like Amazon, but also you might have your own hypervisors, whether that be internally at VMware or you're deploying your own cloud-based system. So certainly that security is a huge deal on there.
It'll be interesting to see how they shift as the virtual machine market shifts as we move into platform and container as a service and some of these other areas.
Oh, they were founded in Romania and have 1,500 employees.
Holy cow.
I'm not sure if that's going to turn some people off, the fact that they're founded in Romania.
Maybe.
It could be. They do have a pretty strong endpoint play. They're protecting 500 million endpoints today. So
1,500 employees, a lot of employees.
They're a big company, dude. They got 700 engineers. So I mean, it's a pretty heavy engineering-based company. And basically, their newer product they're rolling out is that hypervisor protection. They do have a patent on it, and they've got an IoT box for the consumer, which is kind of interesting. That plays on the endpoint side. We didn't talk about it because it was more of a consumer play, but they do have a box that can secure some IoT stuff for consumers. So I didn't know anything about Bitdefender. I thought it was pretty cool to meet with them and get the whole spiel on the company. So.
Got it. You want to take a break so we can break up this segment?
Yeah, we can talk about more endpoint. So yeah, we'll take a break and come back and talk about some more companies that Matt and I learned more about at Black Hat.
Thank you for watching this interview from Las Vegas. If you want to watch and learn more, go to securityweekly.com/summercamp18 or go to our YouTube channel Security Weekly to view the playlist.